Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. It is November 27th, 2022. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving holiday. And so, our after Thanksgiving holiday title for today is The Curious Dance of Life.
Mm.
And so, we'll begin with an opening affirmative prayer that we begin right now. We invite you to join us in consciousness as we acknowledge that there is one source, one God, one life. We call it by many names, and yet it is all one energy, one creative energy that is in everything and is everywhere. We believe in the three omnis, that God is omniscient, all-knowing, omnipotent, all-powerful, omnipresent, everywhere present. And that includes within each one of us, for we are also part of creation. And just as a cup full of ocean water has the same ingredients as the entire ocean, we have the same ingredients as our Maker. And so we give thanks for that understanding, for we know that God is not a person, God is not vindictive, God is not punishing, God is the creative essence of all life. And in that we may trust, in that we may have confidence, in that we may know that as made of the same God stuff, our word is our creativity. What we say, what we believe creates our life. And for this we give thanks. It gives us a sense of confidence, of peace, and of trust. Trust in the divine life. And together we say, and so it is.
And so it is. I think you pretty much summed up the whole talk. Anyway, thank you all for coming. I'm going to start us off with our conversation yesterday was something that occurred to me, and that is curiosity is one of the major attributes of intelligence. Survival is based on adaptability, and one must be able to adapt, be curious, also have trust, and have courage. And we're going to talk about all of those things today, and hopefully you're going to get so excited you're going to have more and more of all of those things. But one of the things that occurred to me as I was thinking about, there's an old saying, curiosity killed the cat. And that's really a message about not be too curious. And the truth is, cats are the way they are because they're curious. That is, they're interesting and they're curious about everything. And that curiosity is one of the signs of intelligence that we have. But I want to back up a little bit, and I want to work with what I believe to be an unspoken premise that many people have. And the unspoken premise people have often in their spiritual life is that the universe is not for them, that the universe is actually against them. They're going to have to get a shield. God is the shield. They're going to have to get a protector because they need all the protection they can get. And without a shield and without protection, they're living in a world that's very dangerous. So they don't have God as love. They don't have God as possibility. They don't have God as a creative lover who wants all of its creation to exist and to succeed. They have God as a warrior against the enemy, which is almost everywhere. And so the decisions that are made spiritually are often defensive positions or decisions rather than affirmative ones. And I think that's a really important thing.
And it's based on, that is the truth of life as a human being. The fact is we're all going to die at some point, and we want it to be later rather than sooner. And so just being born in that condition, you're born, now you're going to die at some point.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, that's scary. I need something to protect me from that.
Yeah.
And so it's not totally without
merit
basis that we want a protector, but it's really just the wrong approach. Because what we need to do is trust. Trust in the goodness of life, trust in the goodness of God, trust in what we learn to believe wholeheartedly, which is that death is not death. Death is a transition. Death is a transition to exist without a body, which has its advantages.
Certainly when it comes to shampoo and makeup, yeah, definitely.
But one of the advantages is that you know that you're part of everything, because without a body, you're not separate. You are connected to everyone, including God, and it's very self-evident. So it has that advantage. We chose to come to Earth to live like the animals, thinking that we would die, and so it's a hindrance to our trust, to our faith, and our. I think I said trust already, but that's what we need to live a great life, is to have trust that no matter what happens, we're fine.
I was watching one of the videos on cats, and the cat actually was next to a snake, and the snake was ready to strike, and now that means there's danger. The cat continued to be curious, and he puts up his paw, and he just tries so hard to touch the snake, just to touch him. He's curious, and at that point,
We might say the snake's head.
you're right, yeah, the snake's head, just a little bit. I just wanted to get to know you. The snake immediately strikes as viciously and as horribly and as powerfully as he can. And the cat, having something that we didn't know he had, which all of us have, was the ability to jump straight up in the air with all 4 feet out of range and out of danger.
About 3 feet.
Yeah. I mean, it was, whoa, what happened? It was like somebody yanked the cat off the ground. We all have incredible powers that we don't know we have, and we can be curious and we can land on our feet like the cat did. We need to have the curiosity and the willingness to believe in ourselves to know that we can and will land on our feet. And if we land on our feet and there is more danger, then we'll deal with that as well.
We can adapt. That's the dance part.
Yes.
That's the dance.
The universe is not out to get us. But a very powerful...
It can seem like it sometimes.
I didn't win the lottery. But one of the things that really struck me with recently, I was watching another wonderful video of Aikido. And an Aikido master, he was in his 80s, which means he's a pretty young man, was taking on 5, or was being attacked by 5 very young, very healthy, very capable, powerful young men. And what's interesting in this, and this is the metaphor I want to use and for us to pay attention to, was
the dance.
It was the dance. What he did when the person was, quote, attacking him, was he didn't see it as an attack. He saw it as someone moving forward who needed to be helped along his way to a better place or to a safer place. And each person that attacked him, he took them, moving in the direction they were moving, stepped aside, and set them down on the ground. It took almost no energy at all to help them go where they were going and get out of their way. It takes a huge amounts of energy to attack the attacker. And so if we imagine that the adversities that we're facing are things that need to be moved through, and that we need to find a safe place for those things, and they're not about us, they're not against us. He didn't view any of these people who were, quote, attacking him as attackers. He viewed them as energy moving forward that was moving quite rapidly, that he was actually in the way of and was able to move out of the way of. What if we looked at adversity as something we need to step aside from and also even maybe assist in its journey to where it needs to settle? It would take a lot less energy. I know there have been times when I get up in the morning and think, oh God, what have I got to do today? And that, oh my God, what have I got to do today, is me getting ready to attack the problem that I think is going to attack me. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I say, actually, all I have to do is to see the direction it's moving in and help it move along, and if I can participate with it, that would be wonderful. So now we have this spiritual awakening that sees everything as good and as possibility, and we become directors.
Exactly. And as I said, that's why we call this the curious dance of life.
Yes.
Because in our own lives, we've had many surprises.
A couple.
Where things did not go the way we expected.
Yes.
And fortunately, we had a sense of adventure about life and a willingness to take risk and move places that we thought would be a good move.
We quit our jobs and we moved from Florida to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, a beautiful place, because we had a job that was going to pay twice as much as the jobs we had. And when I got there, they said, it will pay twice as much, but it's going to pay you in stock. I said, stock? Yeah, well, actually, no money. This is a startup. We're brand new. I said, so what will we live on? Well, you didn't bring money? No, I said, actually, I was kind of thinking I was going to get money for the service I was. No. It was a mistake. I'm so sorry. So here we are, 1,500 miles or more from where we lived, with all of our belongings, living in the basement of a relative who snores. We don't want to go there through the wall, and it's cold, and we've quit our job, and we've got, quote, nothing. Here we are being struck by that snake, and we just jumped up, and we don't know if we're going to land on our feet.
So meanwhile, I got a job at the local mental health center in Spokane.
Wow.
I would start, I guess, the first of the year.
Right, which is depressing.
Treating depressed people.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been to Spokane in the winter, it's dark, it's gray, it's cold, it's snowy.
There's every reason to be depressed.
Every reason to be depressed, especially if you have a mental illness, or you're depressed and can't get a job, or any of those things. So it was a job, but it wasn't one I was really looking forward to.
And my former employer called me. By the way, I thought I had another job that could possibly work out. So when my former employer called me and said,
From Florida.
we would like to hire you back as a director, a program director. And I said, well, first off, you're going to have to pay $10,000 more. You're going to have to pay for my moving expenses, and you're going to have to hire my wife as lead counselor. They said, wow, I mean, I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I already got a job here if I want it. And then the next day, that job fell through. And I'm sitting there thinking, how do I call them back and say, whatever you want, I'll do it? Yeah. Anyway, they paid the $10,000 more. They paid our moving expenses. They hired Judith as a lead counselor, and I was program director, and we moved back to Florida.
You have to be flexible with these things.
Yes, exactly. So, so we had a 2-month vacation in Coeur d'Alene.
Honeymoon.
A honeymoon, yeah.
We had a
actually,
honeymoon.
yeah.
That was when we first got married.
Yes.
So we had a honeymoon driving all the way across the country. We got to see Yellowstone National Park. We saw Red Rocks in Colorado.
It was incredible. We saw a
was
lightning
fabulous.
storm that followed us to the left of us for hours and hours and hours. It was like a light show the whole time when we were driving through the mountains.
We got to see in Wyoming at night the stars. Oh my God, it was magnificent. It was a magnificent honeymoon. We had a great time.
Except for the snoring.
We sat in the hot springs in Yellowstone National Park, and we stopped in Wallace, Idaho, on our way there, which was a little silver mining town that the mine had closed, and we bought a house for $5,000 on a charge card because we figured it's got to come back sometime, right? Yeah. And nothing else. We have a house to live in. Yeah. It was really an adventure, and we turned around 2 months later and came back. And we didn't know what it would hold for us. But, we've always had the belief, and we learned it from this teaching, this or something better.
Yeah.
This is something better. This didn't work out. Okay, it wasn't what we planned. But let's be flexible and trust in life and God and goodness. And that we can always pivot if we have to. We sold that house 5 or so years later for $25,000. So we even made money on the trip. So that's just one of the things. Our whole life together really has been, we take a risk, we go somewhere, we trust that it will work out, and if it doesn't, we try something else.
You make up a good point. Living with you is kind of dangerous. I had no idea. I hadn't thought about it that way. I could have stayed home. Yeah. It has been an adventure.
That's the dance of
But
life.
could you be as curious as the cat, and could you get closer to the danger that isn't really a danger when you know that you have the ability to get out of the way? Could you take the energy that you think is negative that's moving toward you and say, thank you. This gives me a chance to pivot, to move, and to grasp that which is me and support what needs to happen that's good for me. I mean, there's just endless amount. And we take the same story. A couple goes to Coeur d'Alene, and the job falls through, and he goes to the bar and starts drinking, and she's depressed, and
he gets a DUI.
Well said, exactly. And now they're stuck having to do expensive things in Coeur d'Alene, and it's the beginning of the end, and years later they write about how their life failed when they went to Coeur d'Alene. It's so easy to have it go either way, but why not have you believing that life is in favor of you, and that your greatest strength is your curiosity and your adaptability? And we know, looking at species of animals that have survived, they have survived because of their adaptability and because of their curiosity. In fact, curiosity is one indication of intelligence. Recently, we've had coyotes in our area. We have a lot of coyotes actually in our neighborhood, and we got a hold of a video about the coyotes and their lives, and the forester said, "We've had a hard time getting rid of coyotes, and the reason we've had a hard time getting rid of them is we've done everything to the coyotes we did to the wolves. We managed to make the wolves in Florida extinct, and the coyotes have gotten bigger." And so in Texas, where they were literally dropping little bombs out of airplanes to try to kill the coyotes said, "Thank you, this is wonderful. Now we have little caves we can make for
Our dens.
to have more children in." And so, but what you have is the adaptability of coyotes is why we have so many.
Ah.
And their curiosity, their willingness to investigate and see what's possible. Again, major survival strategy, which is really, really interesting.
So when something seemingly terrible happens to you,
Be a coyote.
you can be curious
Yeah.
about what's the next step.
Yeah.
Wonder what good is coming out of this, because we all need. Life would be very boring if it were just. And I think our idea of heaven is very boring, where there are no challenges, there's no excitement, everything goes well all the time.
Everybody wears white.
I think we come here for the growth opportunities, for the
Yeah.
challenges to grow, for the challenges to our faith, to our ability to treat other people well, even in the face of seeming scarcity. I'm very inspired by what's happening in Ukraine now, as far as how helpful they are to each other. There's no dog-eat-dog mentality. This is our country. We're sticking together. One older woman was staying right where she was. She said, "Where would I go? This is my home. This is my country." And they are, of course, fighting their perceived enemy, but they themselves are working together. And I think sometimes that we need challenges to grow ourselves.
Well, and we've used this metaphor before, but or this example before is that if you start lifting weights, your muscles don't grow because they're excited; they want to grow. No, your muscles grow because the message they're getting is you're not big enough, you're not strong enough to do this lifting, and so we grow because of demand, not because of ease and comfort.
And what we hear from Spirit is that it's a great honor to be in the physical, because you can grow faster in the physical life than you can in the spirit life. You just don't have the challenges there that we have here. So we come here on purpose, and it's a great gift to have the honor to be here.
Yeah.
And so it makes me sad to see all the suicides that are occurring in our culture right now, in our country. I don't know if it's as bad all over the world as it is here. And if it's not suicides, it's murders, mass murders. And so, one could ask, what is going on? It seems to have never been so bad here.
But I think there's an increase, this is sad, an increase in the shallowness and a decrease in the depth that we're willing to see in our own lives, and to see that there is a status, there's a need for belonging, that what genes you have and what shoes you have. And I see this with little kids that they can't face their friends if they don't have the right shoes.
Right.
Now, I understand that with children, but I also see the same thing with adults, because as children they learn how to have that value attached to the things they have rather than who they are. So the neighborhood, all of those things are become more and more critical. So we moved into a world of consumerism. What we didn't know we would be moving into is a world that we would evaluate our value would be based on our ability to consume.
Well, I think part of the problem is this country is losing its spiritual base.
Yeah.
Most children are not believing in anything spiritual. And so what are they going to trust in?
New
If they're going
Nintendo.
to trust in life, well, that's going to end here, So there's not much to trust in. But also with our curiosity, that's one of the things we wanted to stress, our curiosity about what happens after death. When the near-death stories were just coming out, we really got into that and studied it and of course, believe it. And also, I was just curious about spirituality and from different sources. And in 1980, I remember I attended a end of the year, week-long spiritual seminar put on by David Spangler and Brew Joy,
yeah.
both very spiritual men, not from our teaching. And what they said then was that the vibrations of our life, our planet, we're going to be speeding up for transition, the transition from third dimension to fifth dimension. Don't ask me about fourth dimension because I don't know why it goes from 3 to 5. But they said the vibrations would be speeding up. Energy would be speeding up. And that we had to be flexible, allow the energy to go through us, not try to stop it. They said that there would be many suicides from children and from people who were not able to allow those vibrations to just flow through them, because our own vibrations will be speeding up as we practiced our spiritual beliefs. And if we weren't, those vibrations would be hard to go through and make people depressed, unhappy, and unable to continue. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. That was now 42 years ago that I heard that. And I only went because I was curious. I wanted to explore spirituality and what those folks had to say.
We need to be willing to become spiritual athletes. And the truth is, we're all going to have to be athletes spiritually, whether we want to be or not. And I used to do cross-country bicycling with groups of people. What I noticed when I would do a cross-country bike ride with people was that they were different on the road than they were at home. That is, some excelled and some whose curiosity and spiritual trust got them up the hills. Others fell down and quit and cried and were upset. It's easy to be calm and to feel good when there's nothing in front of you and nothing behind you and you're sitting still in your recliner. It's life's challenges that bring out the best in you, or bring out to you the opportunity to have a best, because what you're seeing is what's wrong with you or what your limitations are.
Exactly. And another thing I learned is that how you can best raise your vibrations, because really we're not really physical beings. We are vibratory spirit. But how you increase those vibrations or keep them high is to stay happy. I mean, how hard is that? Mm-hmm. Well, it can seem to be hard at times when adversity happens and we see these things on the news. But we must keep our vibrations high by staying happy and not getting morose and pessimistic. And
the last 2 days we've watched, I think, 2 concerts, maybe 3 concerts, and at least 3 different comedians, hour long on Netflix. The one was an Asian comedian
by the name of Sheng Chang.
It is so good. And why is it so good? Because he doesn't take himself too seriously, and you can't stop laughing. If you can laugh more, it's a message to the body that life must be safe enough for you to have a laugh. We spend an awful lot of our time acting as if there's some big beast out beyond the other side of the door that's going to take us out, and we need to allow comedians to take us on a journey, a trip. And so I invite you to inquire into your own spiritual nature and ask yourself, how can I open this even more than I have so far? How can I exercise my spirituality with curiosity and
trust and expecting
and
this or something better?
Yeah. And if I can do that instead of, oh my God, what have I got to do? And ask yourself every time you do a prayer of desperation if that really helps, or if it doesn't affirm the desperation. If every time you say, God, protect me from these terrible things, what you're really doing is affirming the terrible things. And you're also affirming your own weakness in that you're not equipped to be able to manage it without God helping you do it.
And a tool taught in cognitive therapy is, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah.
And I've used this a lot of times. What's the worst? And no matter what you say, it eventually gets to, well, I could die or I could be killed. That's the worst thing. Mm-hmm. And when you understand that's not a terrible thing, you might actually enjoy it, and not the death process, but the being in spirit. There's nothing to fear.
There's a step in the middle of that, which I always like. What's the worst possible thing that could happen to you? And what are the odds, based on past experience, that that's going to happen? We often react as if it's going to. We haven't done the logical step, which is, actually the odds are pretty good that won't take me out. The odds are pretty good I'll survive that. Okay, well then, why are you reacting that way? Why are you praying in desperation for a solution to a problem that you can pretty much figure isn't going to be fatal? Put your prayers on abundance. Put your prayers on affirming the qualities that you have that have allowed you to go this far. And be curious about how much further you can go rather than desperate.
Very good. I think we
may have done it. Yeah. I'm feeling better.
And so, would you like to do the closing prayer?
Yeah. So I won't ask you to join with me because you already have. And so together we know that this exciting adventure is unfolding before us, and we are making room for it. We are making room for the most extraordinary things that we know are for us, not against us. We affirm right here and right now that life favors us or we wouldn't be here. That the universe favors us and is smiling from the inside of each of us in joy and in love, affirming that we are exactly where we need to be, having the life we exactly need to have, exactly the way it needs to be. Knowing this to be so, no matter how difficult or how often we have felt the struggle, we say thank you. And with great gratitude, we end this prayer knowing that it is so. And together we say, and so it is. So now we go to screen share. If I can find that, share screen. And I'm going to go to this. There we go.
Very good.
And get that out of the way.
The red dot. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So what we're going to affirm right now is that...
We invite you, first of all, to support this Center for Spiritual Living of the Palm
Yeah,
Beaches.
please do.
That is part of Centers for Spiritual Living. And we invite you to share your good with our organization so that we may continue doing this work, which makes us very happy.
Right.
And we hope it brings some joy to you.
And if you don't have any money and you can't afford to support us that way, we understand that. Send cookies or brownies.
I need those, yes.
Yeah, because we're trying to
We just-
overcome
yes.
a discrete anorexia that we both
Right,
struggle
yes.
with.
So let's say this offertory affirmation
Yes.
together. My investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And so it is.
Okay,
Stop the share.
stop the share, and I'm going to go now to end our
End the recording. Yeah,
end recording.
no, there.
There we go.